Martin Luther is known as one of the most influential figures in the Reformation of Christianity. He was one of the first people to challenge the beliefs of the Roman Catholic Church and revolutionized the stance of the relationship between the common people and God. By escaping the chains of ignorance, Luther was enlightened to the reality of the religious society in his world and was able to return to the cave to teach those who were still bound by the restrictions of the Catholic Church. Martin Luther was born on November 19, 1483, in Eisleben, Saxony, in Germany. He was born into a family of peasants. His parents were Hans and Margaret Luther. Luther's father was a miner and ore smelter, but did not want the same fate for his son. Instead, Hans Luther pushed his son into becoming a lawyer. Luther spent the entirety of his childhood attending a variety of schools. From the age of 7, he attended a school in Mansfield, then Magdeburg when he was 14, and finally returning home to Eisleben when he was 15. Continuing on to the University of Erfurt, Luther earned his Master of Arts degree in grammar, logic, metaphysics, and rhetoric. He was on the road to becoming a prominent lawyer of blinding ignorance when a terrifying thunderstorm of necessary awakening opened his eyes to his true destiny. In July of 1505, Luther was caught in a terrible lightning storm and cried to the patron saint of miners, "Save me, St. Anne, and I'll become a monk." The storm subsided, and Luther was unchained from inside the cave. Finally realizing that following the path to becoming a lawyer was not his true lot in life, Luther realized that the shadows he had seen on the wall were the results of a predetermined future. Luther's first few years in the monastery he joined were very difficult for him. He did not find the religious enlightenment he had been searching for and was instructed to focus exclusively on Christ. Luther was invited as a delegate to a church conference in Rome and was astonished by the immorality and corruption he found in the priests. This revealing delegation of appalling truth that exposed the fraudulent behavior of the Catholic priests was when Luther walked out of the cave and understood the outside world was real and he had been deceived. Following this experience, Luther enrolled in the University of Wittenberg and became a professor of theology. Through studying scripture, he came across the line, "The just will live by faith," and was struck by the realization that spiritual salvation did not come from fearing God or being enslaved by religious dogma.
Luther came to the conclusion that faith alone brings salvation. This epiphany set in motion the Reformation that would forever change the face of Christianity. In 1517, Pope Leo X was collecting gluttonous indulgences of corrupt greed for the construction of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Outraged that the Church was promising salvation for monetary offering, Luther nailed his 95 Theses critiquing the indulgences on the University of Wittenberg's chapel door. He also sent a copy to Archbishop Albert Albrecht of Mainz. Thanks to the invention of the printing press, Luther's 95 Theses became widespread across Europe within weeks. In October of 1518, Luther was ordered by the Pope to recant his theses and was forced to attend a meeting with Cardinal Thomas Cattern in Augsburg. Luther declared he would not withdraw his accusations unless there was scripture that proved Luther was wrong. Luther also stated the papacy did not have the authority to interpret scripture. Throughout 1519, Luther continued to lecture and reinforce his idea that the Bible did not give the Pope the exclusive right to interpret Scripture. On June 15, 1520, Luther received a letter from the Pope threatening his excommunication from the Church, and on December 10, 1520, Luther publicly burned the letter. By challenging the Roman Catholic Church, Luther returned to the cave and tried to educate those on what he had discovered in the outside world.
However, when Martin Luther returned to his unenlightened peers, he struggled to free them from the chains that bound them. In January of 1521, Luther was officially excommunicated from the Roman Catholic Church. Then, that March, Luther was asked to recant his statements about the Catholic Church at the Diet of Worms. Luther refused to recant his statements, preaching that there was no scripture that would disagree with him. The furious Pope Leo X and the Catholic King Charles V ordered Luther to be taken into custody following his refusal to recant. However, Luther's political protector, Frederick the Wise, anticipated this arrest and helped Luther to refuge before being captured. King Charles V then passed the Edict of Worms on May 8th. The edict banned Luther's writings and declared him a convicted heretic, making him a wanted man. Luckily, Frederick the Wise had helped Luther take refuge in Wartburg Castle, where he hid for an entire year. While staying in Wartburg Castle, Luther wrote one of his greatest contributions to the Protestant Reformation, his German translation of the New Testament. Luther was finally able to return to Wittenberg Castle Church in May of 1522, and he began to organize a new church under the new sect of Christianity, Lutheranism. Slowly, his people were able to escape the cave of unquestioning ignorance, and with Luther's leadership, see the bright light of enlightenment. Luther gained much support from German people and princes. However, his reliance on the support of said princes required Luther to denounce the peasants during the Peasant Revolt of 1524, which had started because of the Protestant Reformation in the first place. This disruption did not upset Luther's personal life, as he married a former nun, Katharina Bonvara, and had 6 children with her. In 1533, he was promoted to Dean of Theology at the University of Wittenberg, which would be the last career of his eventful life. After over 10 years in the deanship, Luther contracted several illnesses, including arthritis and heart problems. He continued to write in his sickness, this time commenting on the issues in the Jewish and Muslim religions. Luther then died on February 18, 1564.
Martin Luther was a prisoner of the cave, held captive by the restrictions of the Roman Catholic Church. When he was finally able to leave the cave, Luther became aware of the corruption in the church and set out to revolutionize the way Christianity was practiced. By translating the Bible into the language of the people, he returned to the cave to teach others about what he had learned so that they might be better informed. Luther risked everything by returning to the cave. He was a wanted man and was excommunicated. Despite the potential consequences, Luther stayed true to his beliefs and ultimately was able to reform the church, which caused him to be known today as one of the most important figures in the Reformation.